Now before you go ahead and fire up your polish, you want to make sure that your polishing pad is centered correctly on your backing plate. Just like that. Then you want to go ahead and apply the total swirl remover onto your polishing pad. And then Mike can fire up our polisher and start having some fun.
Now here's a few tips. First, anytime you're machine polishing, put the cord over your shoulder. Otherwise you're going to drag it up against the paint, possibly mar it. That's just a good best practice to get into. And here's another tip, and this is key. Don't turn this on until that pad is in contact with the paint. You know why?
It's going to get that everywhere. All your total swirl remover will be all over the place. It'll be all over you, everywhere you don't want it to be.
We call it splatter dots. You'll throw splatter dots everywhere, and here's what you're going to do. You're going to set the polisher down, grab a microfiber, and spend about an hour wiping them off everywhere through splatter, including the wall, including yourself, okay? And I got to tell you, Bruno, most people make that mistake one time, and after they go through all the pain of getting the little dots of splatter off, they never make it again.
Yeah, it's a lesson learned, but this way, do it right the first time, it'll save yourself an hour of headaches.
That's right. Okay, now here's another tip. Modern clear coats, the paints are actually fairly hard. That's what makes them so durable, so they last as long as the drivetrain does nowadays. But what that means is when you're going to buff out a car, I can't just tackle, say, half the hood because I can reach that far. What I want to do is I want to break this up into sections and just tackle a section at a time. And then when I start a new section, I want to overlap a little bit into the previous section. And that way I'll uniformly remove all the swirls over every panel.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned from Mike is the fact that make sure you overlap, because otherwise you might have a section here will be nice and polished and a section right here, and that gap in between will have swirls in it. So make sure that you overlap a little bit as you go along and tackle little sections at a time to make sure you get a proper finish.
Yep. Now this is a Flex 3410 polisher, and what's cool about this tool is it's not like a rotary, so you're not going to burn the paint and you're not going to put swirls in. It's completely safe, and it has enough power to tackle any car, no matter how hard or how soft the paint is. It's also got a variable speed dial here. And what I like about this is when I turn this over, it's conveniently located right here where I'm holding the tool that I can adjust the speed with my thumb. And what I like about that is when I start out, I want a low setting or a slow setting to spread the product out. Now once I got that product spread out, I'm going to bump that speed because you need the high speed to actually remove the swirls. Then here's a couple more tips and techniques for machine polishing. Okay, one is you want to use a pattern that you can duplicate, and the easiest pattern that you can duplicate over the rest of the car is a front to back and a side to side. And when you're removing swirls, normally you're going to want to work one section about 6 to 8 times. We call these section passes. So I'm going to buff out a section here. Tell you what, Bruno, hand me, put down a microfiber.
Okay, sure. Yeah, this is a little guide here for us to go by.
It's kind of a guide. The average microfiber towel is 16 inches square. So this is about as big of an area as you want to buff at one time, and then when you move on to a new section, tackle a section the same size, but again, overlap just a little bit. But the first thing you want to do is spread your product out, and then I want to go front to back and side to side. And each time I cover this section one time, that's one section pass. I've covered that section one time. And in most cases, when you're removing swirls, you're going to have to do those section passes about 6 to 8 times. Then turn the polisher off, wipe and inspect. If the swirls are gone, move on to the new section.
All right, let's fire it up, Mike.
Here we go. So low setting to spread it out, and then I'm going to start bringing up my speed, and then I'm going to make my section passes. I'm going to stop. Notice how I move the polisher fairly quickly, but that's only to spread the product out. Once I have it spread out, and this is key because this is a mistake a lot of guys make, they move this polisher too quickly. You actually want to use what we call a slow arm speed, and that's how fast I move my arm or the polisher, and move it very slowly. So watch and you'll see how slow I move this.
Yeah, with the clay you're moving fast. This is just the opposite. You want to use nice and slow and allow the machine to do the work.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to bring up the speed. Okay, I went over that section 6 times. That's called 6 section passes. Notice I didn't lift this off till that pad stopped spinning. Now I'll lift it off, and again, that keeps me from throwing splatter everywhere.
It's that mistake that you learned the first time, and hopefully it's the last time, and it saves you that hour of cleaning up all that splatter. You know what though? That Flex, I just like the sound of it. I mean, it just sounds like a cool tool. You know what I mean? If it did nothing else, the sound is worth it.
It's smooth, fairly low vibration. It's definitely got the power. Okay, now, since this is a polish, we don't need to let it dry, so go ahead and just wipe that off real gently, and let's inspect the results.
Okay. Wow, Mike, that's really looking good.
You know, most people would look at this and think we just waxed the car.
Yeah.
And it does look pretty good, but we're actually going to take this to an even higher level. We're going to switch over to a less aggressive pad, use the finishing glaze, really amp up the gloss and clarity, and then we'll be ready to put some wax on.
All right.